Recently, the New York University's Journalism Institute hosted a discussion with Siddharth Varadarajan with the event titled India, the Battle for Free Speech. The discussion reflected upon the freedom of press and its status in India, as well as the impact of press and journalism in creating the international narrative for Indians in Western media. With much focus on the ongoing political debates happening currently in India, from economy to CAA to Indian government's history post-partition, Siddharth Varadarajan reflected upon his political take, campaigns in India, and the need for more access and resources for Indian journalists to expand their reach. The New York University held this event in an attempt to engage more into political issues and ideologies of the world's largest democracy, India. Let's take a look.
Essentially what I spoke about today was how freedom of speech is coming under pressure in India. Not because of any new laws that are being passed or any direct violation of media freedom, but pressure that's being brought to bear on media, pressure that's being brought to bear on people who are protesting government policies, whether it be in Kashmir, Uttar Pradesh or Delhi. Pressure that's being brought to bear on academics and students in our universities, and the way in which every other institution in the country, whether it's the judiciary or the Reserve Bank of India, or you name it, how these institutions which are meant to serve as a check and a balance to the abuse of power by the executive are somehow getting undermined. And I think this is affecting the quality of democracy in India and raising concerns about the kind of freedoms that we've all taken for granted for the past 70 years.
It is, Indians take great pride in their federalism. The formal name of India is the Union of India. People often forget that. And if you read the first few articles of the Constitution, I think Article 1 or 2, a union of states. So India is clearly envisaged in that way. But there's been a constant struggle between the center and the states. There's been a constant struggle between the executive and individual citizens and their rights, which the courts, the media, different institutions have at various times, risen to the occasion to ensure that those rights are protected. And today, and there's plenty of evidence that those rights are now under attack.
Kashmiri Pandits are obviously one of those sections of the population that has suffered a great deal in India over the last 20 or 30 years, just like the rest of people of Kashmir have.
But since we're talking about freedom, and freedom of speech, freedom of expression, democratic rights broadly speaking, the handling of J&K, even if you accept the government's argument that there is national security involved, although it's a highly dubious argument because all the data on militant violence and terrorist killings and so on in the run-up to the decision that the government took in August last year clearly shows that level of violence over a long period is sharply down. Levels of violence recorded last year, are much less than what they were a decade ago. So I don't buy the national security argument, but even if you accept that, the arrest and detention of children in an illegal fashion, internet shutdowns it's now been 6 months that the people of the valley, Kashmir Valley, have been without broadband internet. And mobile internet was allowed, I think 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, but at very low speeds. And you have North Korea style whitelisted sites, so you can only access some sites.
Obviously, the Citizenship Amendment Act in India has caused a lot of concern across the country as to why, for the first time in 70 years, religion is being made a criterion for citizenship. This has never happened in the past, and the fact that we are now trying to introduce religion as one of the conditions for citizenship, even if it's just for migrants or refugees, is something that is profoundly disturbing. A democratic country like India really needs to be welcoming of anybody who has a well-founded fear of persecution and not look at their religion or language or any other factor of that kind. And I think this is something which has alarmed and bothered a lot of people across India.
This issue was debated in the Constituent Assembly when India's constitution was being drafted. And the founding fathers and mothers of modern India decided that citizenship cannot be based on religion because India is a secular country. What the Modi government has done under the guise of accommodating refugees who need to be accommodated, I have no doubt about that. Anybody who comes from these three countries with a well-founded fear of persecution will be accommodated. There was no need to specify religion. Yet they added religion into the statute and said if you are a Hindu, Parsi, Sikh, Christian or Jain or Buddhist, you will have you will not be treated as an illegal migrant.
You'll be sort of fast-tracked. And
you'll be fast-tracked. And so it excludes Muslims. It also, by the way, excludes Jews, and there are some Jews in Pakistan. It excludes Baha'is, who are also, arguably persecuted. Ahmadis, of course, as Muslims.
And we discussed the state and condition of free speech in India, and discussed the various ways in which free speech is under threat in India, along with various other freedoms. And there was a lively discussion with questions from the audience, mostly NYU students and some other journalists. And it lasted for an hour and a half, and it was a very valuable conversation.
The fact that Modi doesn't actually talk to journalists, but yet he's very actively trying to send his message by social media. And I was wondering if you could actually comment a little bit more, given your time as a journalist, the impact of social media on the kind of journalistic sphere in India.
Right. Is wary of, even those that are not committed, are quite happy to do critical stories. But they know that you have red lines, so there will be no direct attack on the Prime Minister. As far as Modi's own method of communication, so he definitely is a guy who believes in one-way transmission. His own use of Twitter, he has millions of followers, but I'm told that large proportion of them are fake or phony. But even so, there are millions of them. And he has this radio show once a month, Man Ki Baat, where he, and it's very cleverly done. Like, so there will be a lot of crowdsourcing, like, a week before the episode, people will be encouraged to send in their ideas, and then he will pick up an idea. And so he's a very clever communicator, and he's effective. And his oratory definitely holds people and attracts people.
Hi, I'm Yosha. I'm a junior studying journalism at NYU, and I'm Indian, which is why I was interested in coming to this event, because sometimes I feel a little bit politically illiterate about what's going on in India. And I think that this event was great because Mr. Varadarajan really went deep into the politics of the RSS and kind of how one party is controlling everything in India right now. And I thought that was really interesting and very enlightening. And also just, the rise of fascism and what it means for the future of India. And that's something I've been very interested in too, but I never knew where to go to find news about it. So I was really glad that I could come to this event.